Cut Metalwork, July 20th, 2019. Today we're talking about wear resistant, and but first, if you think of like a blade, steel, the majority of the element is iron, some carbon, and when they form into a crystal, dominant crystal for hardened steel would be martensite. So that we call the matrix. So matrix is a substrate, and now within the matrix you have hard particle. So, and hard particle could be carbide or nitride, but I would prefer them as carbide for because that is the common type. So, in preparation for doing SEM sample, so I can take a high magnification of the steel surface, and also to see the result of my research, heat treatment research. And so here is the sample that I'm not polished yet, and and after it polished, we'll break off this piece, and I'm going to put in the scanner electron. But right now, for this video, I'm going to use the optical. The image later on in this video would show the optical of the surface, the polished surface and edge. So pretty much the polishing it, you go bell grinder all the way to 800 grit, and then after that they got flattened and pretty much almost to mirror with 2K. This is diamond plate, and so the surface became flat. And so now for the steel that with carbide will be carbide mostly harder than many other abrasive. Diamond CBN are harder, so that it can flatten surface out, and that's why now the surface will be more reflective, so they look shiny. So again, this video will be slow and long, and if with patience, maybe there's some insight that I will share toward the end of the video. Well, now you patiently watch. So, and now after the 2000 grit diamond, the surface more reflective, more like mirror. And then we're going to these subton glass, and at 8000 grit, which is 1.84 micron abrasives. And what happened when you with this surface, I put then you rub against it, or you use the Gora to break up the surface, and so some of the abrasive going to be loose abrasive, some going to be fixed steel, embed into this stone surface. So when you rub in action, for me, first I do in the crosshatch, or in other words, this way, and then this way, and then an angle, and then clockwise and counterclockwise. So basically, to see what happened, this is more like abrasion. So we see what happened to the carbide in the surface. Start out with a polished surface, but then what color will turn after I use softer abrasive? In this case, ceramic is very hard, but it's still softer than the carbide when you do the rubbing action. So now I'm going to make the visualization. I got silly putty here, and this is silly putty, and to simulate a matrix is a silly putty, and I got ball bearing, and but present this carbide. So I got a matrix and carbide. Some carbide are below the surface right now. So now initially when after the 2000, you don't have, it doesn't have the carbide protruding this high, because the diamond will knock it off, dislodge. It can cut the carbide, but for this kind of shape and this kind of thing, you rarely see, actually, rarely see ever. Actually, I haven't seen that effectively the carbide got abraded or cut off. It basically got dislodged out. So they're going to be whole. But however, let's say this is the surface. The point would be, now this is the matrix right here, the surface, and it's fairly flat and nice. So let's say, because now if you see the flat, nice surface, and then when the metallurgical microscope point light straight at it, light going to reflect right up, back up to the optic, to the lens, and then register the lens. So now this is up to 2000, they look like that, but now I use the 8000, the ceramics abrasive going to be softer, and what would happen? The abrasive going through, rubbing, and the lure abrasive more like rolling and tumbling, so they go like this motion, going through, and of course some of it will get large and push and try to plow. The fixed abrasive in the stone going to have impact, or they would try to abrade or cut the carbide. But of course, it won't be doing that effectively at all. So basically, you end up with impact. See impact. So now, I'm going to simulate a motion for you to see. First thing they're going to do, if this carbide was protruding this high, the first thing would be is they will get knocked loose. They will get knocked out of there. They're going to be gone by the fixed abrasive. And all depend on how strong the fixed abrasive. You see, the abrasive is also, think of something protruding from the sharpening stone, the abrasive, the ceramic, and they have the part in there. And if they ran into the carbide, then the abrasive also get dull. And so now instead of a high PSI point that they can try to punch through, now you have a dull point. So you have a fixed dull abrasive plus a stumbling around abrasive that will cut into the matrix, right? So let's say that I'm going to cut through the, now after simulating, well, now look like, okay, so if I cut now that much, so now I'm going to see some carbide protruding, right? But if I do it lightly, or if I roll it around, let me roll it around, these are loose, I'm lapping motion here, and I wrote, because remember I told you doing clockwise and counterclockwise, so I rotate, instead of rotating abrasive here, I rotate this matrix to the same thing. So you end up seeing that, okay, some of the carbide got covered up, and they go like that, right? And if I keep, so that the role of, when you do the rubbing part, what happened different when heat treat will determine how wear resistant it is. So now, let me stick it up a little bit. I'm going to push this up a little bit now, right? So now the same thing like before. If I try to rub it, try to go, okay, while most of the carbide still beneath the surface, right? So now they get the fixed abrasive going to right over the top of the carbide. the loose abrasive going to go between, undercut the carbide, so they will do so, like so. Remember, I rotated because I'm doing clockwise and counterclockwise to remove material, in this case the matrix. Right. So now let's do some more. Now, if the matrix is strong, when the matrix is strong, okay, now the flux abrasive is going to be right high on top of the carbide, so they won't do anything pretty much because they are very harder than the abrasive, so they're not going to do any cutting. The loose abrasive actually continue to go between the carbide. I mean, to demonstrate the point here, I mean, actually, you can actually think of it as simple or common sense, because that's what will happen. But now, when there's enough exposure, see, like now, instead of carbide, you can have an analogy of like teeth in the gum. So, how strong your gum you can hold on to the highly exposed teeth, or in this case, the matrix now got undercut that much. I got these two carbide, they are two similar height. Let me push this one down a little bit. Okay. Now, when remember the impact of the flux abrasive, now they will run into this thing. How strongly embedded this carbide here in the matrix will determine how much it can protrude upward and still they're able to withstand the impact of the abrasive. Right? So the result you're going to see is the stronger the matrix, the higher the carbide allowed to protrude from the surface, up from the surface. And while the weaker matrix, then what you're going to see is basically these lower protruding carbide. While the high one, the weak steel, the high one is going to be gone. It's going to get moving out of there, and they got smoothed over most of the time because of the rubbing part, the lapping part. Oh, the high one is going to be gone. So overall, after the end of the process, you're going to see that the weaker the matrix, you have a whole lot of low protruding or partial, while the strong matrix that can hold on firmly into the carbide, we have a lot more protruding like so. And then if you're taking a picture, or when you're taking a picture, I mean the micrograph of it, you can see that, okay, the lump is higher, that means high protruding carbide and low protruding carbide. And if you inverted it, you can see that the crater, I mean, because now this is a mound, but when you inverted it, you want to see as a crater, you can see that this is going to have a deeper crater, or you can clearly see the shadow, compared to this one. You're going to see shallow pit or crater. So that is the basic concept of, see, the more you, I mean, wear resistant, the more the carbide remain exposed. That means the more when things rub on it, or whether it's on a flat surface or on the apex, the resilience or how that matrix hold on to the carbide will tell you that how long, I mean, whether the surface is wear resistant or the edge is wear resistant. So for weak steel, if you have matrix, when you sharpen, and you say sharpen and with using with this ceramic or other some form of ceramic, all the protruding is going to be gone. They're going to get dislodged. to replace wood is a shiny surface. Bernison. There's some of the low, remember there's a low protruding down the one got dislodged. But all the rolling of all the other thing now, you end up with a low protruding carbide surface and fairly brighter. So when you look at the microscope, you're going to see a lot flatter and brighter surface. And this thing usually gets smeared. I mean, it's not because, I mean, the matrix can smear over these carbide. Anyway, that is the concept of in terms of I try to looking at the way that I can qualify in what is wear resistant, whether the heat treatment did it produce stronger matrix that can hold on to the carbide. When the matrix is stronger, then the protrusion of the carbide will be higher. That means overall the population that got dislodged, you're going to see, yeah, look like I don't have any more carbide below there. Oh, there's some, right? Well, I did when I make these things. So overall, if the matrix is stronger, then we see the surface will decorate with a lot more carbide because it didn't get dislodged. So you can compare side to side. Side to side comparison, that means the steel got heat up at the same temperature, soak at the same length, and then temper at the peak hardness. So they are peak hardness, and we put side to side comparison and see if that what happened to the surface. So when so seeing, I mean, I mean, from the optical image, I see plenty of evidence, enough resolution to see this qualitative. Also, in a way, when you count carbide, you can see some quantitative of, depend on the abrasive, depend on the different setup. You can count carbide, and you can see that how much surface loss. For example, some of the, when I polish, sometimes I have a groove. That's it. Because look, the diamond plate is not perfect. There's some of the big grit inclusion or straight, and you end up with the big groove. And so after the processing with the 8K of grit, you can see the depth. Also, that will tell you how much thing got cut. I mean, the ideal way is you can say, okay, I weigh the sample to be ridiculous precision, but that is the way too involved than necessary, because I think with this groove line, so like of trenches, and you can see how much got abrased, so you can have few things. If the groove is deeper, more protruding carbide, that means less material will remove. If the groove is shallower and less carbide, and the only one protruding are low protruding, not high protruding. Those are the ones that have weaker matrix. I will show you the sample. They all got heat treated austenite at the same temperature, which is 2100 degree for 30 minutes, and they all receive cryogenic or liquid nitrogen soak and temper at their peak hardness, in this case 275 degree Fahrenheit. And to repeat, the surface was flattened with 2K diamond plate, and then lapping and rubbing with 8K sapphire glass, and all etched with nitto 5% for 35 seconds. They all won't have that. So Now, this is the control, meaning that we are using the standard heat treat recommended by the manufacturer of CBM 10D. And as you can see, each of these lump is the carbide. Here the flat part is the matrix, laterally flat. Lump, the bump, are partially exposed carbide on the surface. And down here is the inverted. Down here is the inverted. Is the inverted version of up here. So you can see what used to be a dot now is a crater, and used to be trenches now. Here you see the ridge. So the reverse, so you can see this. You see the height. This you got reverted, so you can see the depth. So you give you the from the depth and from the shadow here, you can see how deep it is. Or in this case, give you the hint of how much these carbide protruding. This, you can see if the carbide was round, circle, so you can see that here the depth. And you ask question, does it look like less than half of the carbide is protruding from the surface? And compared to blanket metal work, heat treat 4.0, which is my latest experimental. I also have 3.0, but I don't want to crowd it up the comparison here. The 3.0 is it's closer to the 4, but not look like the control. And the control is a baseline so that you have point of comparison. This, if you were using standard heat treat, this would where you're going to use for blanket metal work. So you can see the protrusion of the carbide here. It's very tall, and the flat surface is vastly reduced of the matrix. You can see that even small one protrude high up. And if we're counting, this is going to have higher population of carbide than this one. This one will have higher. See if this bump is a lot taller bump. And if you go to the inverted picture down below, but when this pit or crater and this one, you can see this one is much deeper. That means the carbide, the matrix is a lot stronger holding on to the carbide. So they allow the carbide to protrude away from the surface a lot more. And from this, if you look at this crater, you can access at least half of the carbide actually protruding, and it would at least half versus less than half, maybe like a third right here. And this is less half because you can see the shadow, deep shadow into the surface here. See the black here is this matrix surface. So we have this spot and this spot right there, you can see. Anyway, so you see the depth. And we switch to another steel, because another steel here is, this is CBM T15. Again, all these things have the same heat treat, the same heated temperature, with different protocol or process. This is control. You can see that the some small mix between small and large carbide is hardly protruding. It's very protruding, very shallow. It corresponds to shallow crater down here. versus you can clearly see the carbide, all the lumpiness and the heat treat 4O. In other words, there's a lot of the carbide still present. That means now for the foreign material, they're going to rub against it. They're going to rub against the more and against carbide. So you have this surface you're protected by carbides more. So in other words, this matrix is stronger at holding on to the carbide. And the inverted picture, you can see the depth of this hole and the number of it compared to the two. This versus this. Will tell you that for T15 is a large improvement. 10V also have large improvement, but T15 is more pronounced right here. Now, this is CPM 15V. Again, the control, heat treat 4.0. You can see the control, the surface, basically, again, the carbide protruding, low protruding carbide from the surface. It's fairly reflective, flat. It's quite rough surface. Most of the flatness of the matrix here pretty much got, I say 40–50% of the matrix got removed downward. So, and the carbide sticking out way out from the surface. And for the inverted picture, here is a low, very low. You can see that means the matrix doesn't hold on. Again, any higher protruding carbide are gone. So the one that remain still in place are low protruding. That means the high protruding are gone. Now for the invert, this one because it's so fine, we have so much feature that the optical doesn't resolve very well. So you have to go back to this. But from this picture, you can actually do a little cross extrapolation here. Protruding a lot more, that means there's going to be a deeper crater here. So that basically this video will show you the matrix, the ability to hold on to the carbide is that will determine how much or how well resistant for these kind of steel that have carbide when facing with abrasion, foreign abrasive that erode away or cut away the material. So this shows the flat surface, but if you were now, if you draw a line across here and you say you call that your apex, your edge, and you draw here, and you can see that, well, first of all, more the protrusion of carbide is going to be higher. The edge that will contain higher protrusion of carbide here, because again they have the strength, they have the support in order to hang on or to withstand the external abrasive. So when you have a knife, the more matrix you have, when you run into abrasive, the more burdensome, the more rounded the edge will become. And that's why it will feel dull. If you sharpen your knife really sharp for this kind of matrix and carbide, then you will lose it quickly, because again, when you have a thin cross section, you don't have the support. It doesn't have the support to hold on to the carbide. It will fall off, and to replace with the burdensome effect. which is, in this case, smooth matrix, rounded edge. And that's why when people experience high, quickly dull, keen edge. While this edge here, it's carbide actually and not really exactly spherical. So as long as it's still protruding high and strong enough, when you touch it, instead of feel smooth like a wire here, you will feel like teeth. It still have teeth here. You will feel sticky, and they will able to do this edge will last longer, because again, if the carbide like a saw teeth, if you have a carbide as a teeth, it will saw or cut longer than you rubbing around with the matrix instead. So that is the, and when I have the SEM picture, then it will become clear of these pretty much the same sample. I consider this sample good enough for SEM, a scanning electron microscopy. Then I will do a follow-up video. But from this picture, it's clear enough that to qualify that there's big difference or big improvement between standard heat treat and blended metalworks heat treat. Thanks for watching.